Hey everybody, how's it going tonight? This is RightSide VeganNews with Winnipeg Alternative Media with our weekly show on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Today we're going to be talking about some winter weather, earthquakes, current events, bombs, and fraud proven. I have a bunch of different topics today to talk about, kind of a good wide range of events going on that have happened over the last week. Seems to be a never-ending cycle of stuff going on. So I just want to remind everybody to go check out Winnipeg Alternative Media Discord. That's where all the links will be today for the show. As I had some problems with my show last week, and I hope you guys all checked out those videos. Those videos were some good bombshells, so I hope you took the time to go investigate and do your own research. I want to thank any of our donors. If you want to go on to winnipegalternativemedia.com or .ca, sorry, and /donate and hit the donate button. Price of coffee really helps out. It helps out with the production of these shows. So anything you can donate to help out, $1 to $2 from everybody can really make a difference. So if you guys want to go do that, that'd be great. Helping out the show is amazing. Also tomorrow we have Beth at 3 p.m. and she's a wonderful show. And then we also have Todd at 8 p.m. tomorrow with Prairie Truth. I hope you all got a chance to see his interview with his recent interview. It was really good. It was super awesome. Having a memory blank his name, but yeah, it was a really good interview. We also, had some good things going on all week. We had some snow. It was a good Christmas, and I hope you guys all had a good Christmas too. So we're going to move into some of the interesting topics today. We're going to start off with some weather, and we had a CME actually go off just about an hour or two ago, and I'm going to have we're going to start off with a little screen share of the most recent CME that just went off that we will be noticing in 2 to 3 days. So I'll let Diamond quickly explain what happened. Oh, might not. Yeah, I don't know if I did it right. Hang on. It didn't hit the thing. Don't ask me. There we go. I gotta make sure I hit a certain button here so that you guys get to hear it. So
to hear, and what we have in there is
now we should have audio.
Moderate B flare, which I think was the culprit, and that's where the coronal mass ejection came from, probably around 8, 9, 10 to 11. And so that data will eventually be up after they get to look at it before we do, and we will update you tomorrow. This baby is going to be coming in just a few days. And at the same time, on the 4th here, we have a particularly strong coronal hole stream that will also be impacting. So if we come over to ESWA, there's the shot. It shows it's going to hit Earth right there on the 3rd to the 4th. It doesn't look particularly strong, except for a short duration. Could have a small geomagnetic storm associated with it, maybe up to KP 5, 6. Who knows? It's just a B flare, a CME from a small B flare. So
yeah, that's what happened. So that's what happened just about 2 hours ago. It was a quick CME and a quick update I saw from Diamond, and I thought I wanted to quickly give you guys an update. So that's going to bounce us off that KP0 we were facing the last couple of days. We were facing a KP0 where people get a little unstable, and we have different effects that happen on our different things that we've gone over before. But yeah, that's going to bounce that back up to a KP5 and give us a good little jolt from the sun. Moving on. Just try to do this right. Okay, so hopefully this. Oh, no, I'm gonna have to close that. And then, sorry, I'm just getting used to this sharing screens with this new browser. Didn't put my stuff in order, which is awesome. There it is. There we go. Sorry about that. Little technical difficulties figuring out the new browser. So moving on to the GFS for the total snowfall that we're going to be facing. It's not going to be too bad. We're going to have more snowfall, which is pretty cool for Texas and Mexico, where they're going to be facing snow all the way down to 25 degrees north here on the parallel, and then all the way down into Texas. I mean, they're going to get 2 to almost a foot of snow in certain parts of Texas. So playing out the models, we're going to see for us here up in Manitoba, we're probably going to have a nice New Year's. It's not going to be too snowy, probably a little bit chilly. We're going to be facing no snow, maybe some clear skies. We might actually get to see some stars, so that'll be nice. And then playing that model through, we'll see that it gets a little more unpredictable near further out we go. But we'll see that northern Manitoba is going to start getting some snowfall, and then we might get a foot of snow, maybe 6 to 8 inches coming into the first week of January. So carrying on to the next one. Just the temperatures, which is pretty interesting because it's going to be getting pretty chilly as we get the whites here. We get a little more polar vortex, and then into January 1st, it's going to be -5, 10, and then it looks like it's going to warm up here in Manitoba, where we might even get to 0 on the weekend after the New Year's. So that'll be nice little New Year's present starting off with some mild temperatures here in Manitoba. So that's always nice. But the big story is the snow going all the way down to Texas. Moving on. It's a little slower with this new setup here. I have to individually share the window. Or maybe I don't because I'm not playing audio. But we'll get the bugs figured out here. And then moving into the snowfall out in Europe, they're going to be getting a good amount of snowfall. Different spots and normal spots along the Alps here in northern UK. So France, lots of snow coming down, lots of places. So not too much warming, which is nice to see. We got everyone's having a nice snowy year. So we had some crazy weather come out. Crazy weather coming down in work. So we have some. When I was talking about the snowfall in Texas, they have going to be getting 2 to 10 inches, so almost a foot of snow. It's pretty good all the way down to Texas. So if you know anybody that's down there, that'll be a decent amount of snowfall for anybody down there. Nice, it is working good. So now that I'm not playing audio, I can cruise through this without having to share every screen. So yeah, they're gonna have a decent amount of snowfall all the way down to Mexico and Texas, which is pretty big for them. That's gonna shut them down pretty good. And then we had in Nunavut 135-kilometer-hour winds, which was pretty crazy. We had record-breaking snowfall blasts in Nunavut. 135-kilometer winds rips off stairs and crushes a cabin. So they had some pretty crazy wind up by Baffin Island. About 1,500 houses were shaking in cabins in the record-breaking blizzard. Environment Canada says Sunday storms brought record wind gusts and snowfall to communities across Nunavut in Panagurtug. Sorry if I didn't say that one right. Which reached up to 135 kilometer hours a day. It was like an all-day thing. The wind was so strong, a local says. Many cabins were shaking and are gone. They were blown down, just like, you know, because they're not, they can't build, they have to build out of wood and stuff up there. So yeah, a lot of things were blown down. So it's pretty intense storm that they had up there. The sustained winds were about 70 to 90 kilometers, and the severe gusts were up to the 135 kilometers, which is just ridiculous. And the temperature was from 4 Celsius and then went down to -3. So that was the record set in 2000. So one of the harbors at the north end of the Hudson Bay, which is very close to where I once worked. I went and worked up on the Hudson Bay for a winter and a bit, and they reached 120 kilometers with sustained winds of 80 kilometers in Iqaluit that day. So it's a pretty big storm they had up there. So just some intense weather patterns and weather that's going on, a little bit stronger than normal. And then we had a big earthquake hit. We had a 6.4 magnitude earthquake hit in Croatia, leaving so far 7 dead. The quake, which struck just about noon local time, was 30 miles east of the capital, Zagreb, that could be felt across the Balkans. It was the largest quake to hit Croatia in years, according to the Eastern European Mediterranean seismological center. Yeah, the pictures from this were just astounding. I have a video next I'm gonna play where you see people just running and helping, no masks on, didn't care, everything. It's just about the people to save, and the utter destruction on the older construction houses. And you got to remember, this place has been around for hundreds of years, so some of these buildings are super old and they've withstood a lot of earthquakes. You can see the one building here that's probably a little bit newer, built a little stronger, which is also interesting how there's these little windows that are slowly revealing, which leads into another topic that I like to always look into about mud floods, because this building looks still very old, but at the same time, why are these windows like just peeking outside and slowly getting deeper as the road goes down? But yeah, you can see this earthquake was just huge. This is where it hit. And you will see that one of the largest earthquakes in Croatia's history was just down over here. So it's definitely not one of the biggest earthquakes, but it's definitely a big earthquake that hit them. And this is going in line with a lot of the stuff that's been going on with our earthquakes and volcanoes. There's been a lot of tremors throughout the earth, and this was actually in a warning zone on suspicious observers apps for earthquake warnings, as a warning area, because you can actually somewhat predict where earthquakes are going to be by the blot echoes and where they're coming off on different areas. So you can just see the destruction on some of the older buildings that happened. I have a video on this next one, so I'm going to have to share it differently. Share audio. As you can see, they save a boy, which is just amazing.
Ona su, ajde možemo reći, manja na pokrovima i bit će sanirana tijekom sutrašnjeg ili ovog tjedna.
Yeah, just pure destruction. So let's just go back and see at the beginning here, because the beginning is what's amazing. These people were working so hard, and they were able to save a boy from this vehicle. Just amazing when people can work together and, you know, during a situation like this and just save people's lives. And that's what it's about, right? Like, in the end, it's saving kids' lives and going home at the end of the day. So it's really, really, heart goes out to everyone in Croatia. And if you have family out there, then my heart goes out to you guys, and hope that more lives are saved and that the death toll doesn't get to be too high.
I don't know if you heard, maybe you're touching on this, but I'm just going to chime in since I'm in the Seattle area and you're talking about earthquakes.
Yeah.
We've had 4 earthquakes in Seattle in the last 3 days. So ties right in there.
And they were both 5. Yeah, I think it was like a 5.1 or something.
Yeah,
like
it was
that.
the biggest one, I think.
Yeah, I saw that too. I wasn't actually going to touch on it. I actually forgot to. I have it on. I don't know if I pulled up an earthquake map. I did a volcano one, but yeah, it's a very good point. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's part of what's been going on. Is there's another one too in Iceland too, where there's a ton of earthquake swarms, and it's what people aren't watching, and it's kind of a precursor to what could be the big one in 2021. It's hard, you know. I hope nothing happens on the West Coast where you are, but it's something that we have to pay attention to and always be on the ready, right? And it's amazing to see how people can jump together at that time and start saving lives, and you don't even know where people are, and you just start digging, right? It's amazing.
Yep.
So cool. And moving on, I think I did. Yeah, I think I just shared the screen. So I think this should move over now. Going to just touch on some of the big earthquakes in the Croatia area. They've actually had quite a few big ones in the 6.0 area. Why is this still? In 1830, they had twice in September, and 1838. Other strong earthquakes were felt in 1871, 1878, and 1880 at 6.3. So yeah, and more than 500. So you can tell that they happen in these areas all the time. So when CNN one thing I was pointing out was CNN had said that it was the only one this year, but the earthquakes have been happening pretty constantly, and big ones like this are just known to happen eventually. And this was their biggest earthquake that they had faced. It was in 1667. And the interesting thing too, if you pay attention to the spacing in between, it's also in the ground solar minimum cycles and the sun cycles. It's very interesting when you start paying attention to those and how they all link up. So this was another big one too in their area, and there was a decent amount of survivors, but it also destroyed a decent amount of buildings. So it's interesting to see these areas, how things are starting to wake up. And moving on to volcano news. Yeah, we have quite a few things happening as we have Kilauea still going off. We have lots of activity down in Central America, and same with Chile and down here in the center there. So Sangay, that one is, might have some puffs, some small puffs. So Kluchaskov. So there's still volcanic ash. There's definitely some stuff going on. So we have Kilauea, that's probably the most active one right now, which has been pretty fun to be watching. As Andy was pointing out too, the earthquakes that were going on, I should have pulled up an earthquake map. I'll do that for the next one. I'll try to make sure I have an earthquake map set up so we could check out the earthquakes, because they're pretty awesome. Probably find one pretty quick, but I don't want to mess up the show. So the Kilauea has been going off, and it's filled up to the vent holes, and it's actually equaling out, and it's pretty cool what's been going on with the Kilauea one. I love the footage that Big Island News has been putting out. So we'll just play that.
Monday were measured at about 3,300 tons per day. That's the lowest rate measurement since the eruption began. The reading is still considered elevated, but scientists say it's in a range that was common for the pre-2018 lava lake. A series of recent HVO videos show the decreasing activity at the west vent. This was how the vent appeared 2 nights ago, when Strombolian bursts and lava cascades were recorded during the night.
Yeah, so it's still going off pretty good. It's pretty awesome to see how the lava just flows out, and it's covered up that one other vent hole too. So it's pretty amazing to see what's, the power of Mother Nature, and volcanoes are pretty awesome. They're a pretty fun science experiment to do with your kids. And it's neat because this island has formed in the middle here, and it's pretty big too. It's huge, and it's just floating around in the middle, just kind of going back and forth. So it's pretty cool to check it out. So go give Big Island News a follow, give them a like. They do amazing reporting, and they're pretty awesome to watch out and see what's going on. So yeah, it's always fun to check that stuff out. I'm just pulling up something to see what's going on. Since we were talking about earthquakes, we thought we might as well quickly just pull up an earthquake map, because it kind of goes in line with everything we're talking about today. And this is the USGS's earthquake map. So this is the one Andy was talking about here. So they had a 3.2. I guess the other one is off the map already. But yeah, they've had quite a few. And then same thing down here. There's a good little rumbling going down here, small ones in the California area. Here's the Croatia one here. It's 6. It's just oh no, sorry, this one. So they had another 4.8 aftershock just a little while ago. So yeah, you can see earthquakes. They've been going off quite a bit, and there's always some good patterns to them too. I'll try to find a map about how you can predict them and how that stuff goes on another show. But it's pretty interesting, because when you start to see all these little groupings of earthquakes all going off in all at once, you can, same way up here too, we have quite a few. Sometimes you can predict when the next big one's going to go. In 1000. 1110, the moon vanished from the sky, and they finally know why. I thought this was an interesting article that Diamond had shared, and I wanted to just go over it a little bit. And I thought it was pretty cool because I never knew we went through a year or two possibly with no sun. If you can even imagine how that would work for animals and plants, and it was like a red sky and red moon and everything. Almost a millennium ago, a major upheaval occurred on Earth's atmosphere. A giant cloud of sulfur-rich particles flowed through the stratosphere, turning the skies dark for months, even years, before eventually falling to the ground. We know that this happened because researchers have drilled and analyzed ice core samples taken from the depths of ice sheets or glaciers, which have trapped sulfur aerosols they produce by volcanic eruptions reaching the stratosphere and settling back on the surface. So that's how they can find out all kinds of, well, most of our volcanic history and stuff is all done by ice core samples. So they just drill a big hole into the ground and they pull up a sample and they can pull the layers of all these things happening. So you can start to see the, you know, the length of time that the ash and the sulfur-rich particles would drop from the sky. And this one was it was Hekla, pretty big volcano in Iceland. And it has a history of some pretty big stratovolcanoes of up to VEI 5. Yeah, VEI 5 was its biggest one, 550 BC, and a 3 in 950. But it's gone off before then as well. It's been dormant for about 250 years when it erupted. It was dormant for 250 years, so, and then that one erupted at VEI 5. So pretty big one. So we wouldn't want something like this going off and cooling our Earth for a year or two. So you can imagine what that would cause, not having, you know, the sun around for that long. So I don't see what the most recent activity was. VEI 3 in 1970. VEI 3 eruption in 2000s. So 2000s was its last one. So it'd be 20 years. And if we look at the cycle, we see 2000, we see a 10, we see an 81 and 80. So this is 20 years. This is a 10-year cycle. Still matching a 10-year cycle. So you can start to see that sometimes these things are going off in a 10 to 20-year cycles. And yeah, that's what they can look like when they go off. So very interesting information on volcanoes. The coldest moon occurred today and tomorrow. All you need to know. So I don't know if you guys knew about this, but this is going to be the cold moon 2020. The cold moon is a distinctively high trajectory across the sky. The result of the moon being visible over the horizon for long periods of time is also called the long night moon, as the event occurs over the longest night of the year, falling near the winter solstice. So I thought this was pretty neat. I didn't know about that. This was such a thing that we could have a cold moon because it's the highest trajectory in the sky, and also the longest because of the winter solstice. So a really interesting little article, and get out there and check the moon if you're in Manitoba, because as you saw before in the report before, we're going to have clear skies the next 2 nights for starting tomorrow and tonight. I think it's clear out there right now. So I thought that was pretty cool. So now we're going to get into some current events and some of the COVE stuff. So implications of an emerging SARS-CoV variants. So as we've all heard, we've heard about this new variant coming out. I'm not too sold on it, but I think it's just another form of control. And I have a friend who's actually out there right now, and he says in England they're making it a big deal, but they have somebody who's worked inside the medical system that they know, and they say it's not that bad. And this is just all more posturing to get more money and to go further in debt and to take away our freedoms and control. So based on these mutations, this variant of strain has been predicted to be potentially more rapidly transmissible than other circulating strains of SARS-CoV-2. Although a variant may be predominantly in geographical area, that factor alone doesn't mean that the variant is more infectious. Very important there. Doesn't mean that it's more infectious just because it's in one area. This could be just a more stronger strain of the flu. You know, just like before, sometimes we have more stronger strains that affect people differently, and they don't necessarily travel. And we know that asymptomatic people aren't transmitting them, as we're going to talk about. Scientists are working to learn more about the strain, but it's how easily transmitted or whether or not authorities authorized vaccines can help against it. At this time, there's no evidence that this variant of strain causes more severe illness or increased risk of death. So very important. Anybody knows anybody that's freaking out? Very important here. It does not. At this time, there's no evidence for a variant strain causing more severe illness. And this is updated December 29th, 2020. So this article will be in the Discord. So check the Discord out if you need these facts so you can share them with people. And I encourage you to take these links and share them with people, as we need to help inform the public as we are the media. In case you thought the PCR test detected an actual virus, wrong. So as we know, we talk about this stuff all the time about the PCR test. Another interesting article giving you some more facts. A piece of RNA assumed to come from the virus SARS-CoV-2. I say assumed because where is the actual virus? Where is the actual virus? Isolated from all surrounding material, or where is the virus isolated from all surrounding material? If you don't have the virus, you can't say with any degree of certainty at all you have a piece of it. So basically saying you don't have the RNA of this SARS-CoV-2, because that is what's been proven, is that if you do a freedom of information request to your government, and I just saw another breaking thing tonight about Ireland. Their government has released that the government has stated that there is no SARS-CoV-2 because they don't have something isolated to prove it. So it's I wasn't able to get that one all in time ready, but that's another interesting one. A video of a reporter where the reporting agency got the Freedom of Information Act in Ireland. And that's what the government ended up coming out. So maybe I'll put that in the Discord for everybody so they can check that video out. It's on BitChute and it's from an Irish reporter. But this is what people are starting to find out, is that there's no isolated virus with this name. And that's the scary thing. So as I've described, isolated means that it's tortured by the researchers in the public health. So it just means what it's supposed to mean. So it's very interesting stuff here. But yeah, a great article basically going over the same thing, that the assumption of that they have an RNA of this virus. And here's the source too of, they have the CDC articles and videos if you want to check it out. And I also have this article stating that there is no, CDC doesn't have an actual isolation of this virus. So it's very interesting information. New COVID strain is political disaster of our own making. The UK has quickly become a global pariah. National testing programs are being used as political vehicle to justify predetermined policy prescriptions. By using testing as a form of mass surveillance, we have set ourselves up for a never-ending cycle of lockdowns. And I would say that is very true. It's a very interesting article here. Those are just some of the quotes that I thought were just, that were just posted here along the side. And it's true, right? We're setting us up for this this situation, and eventually, when's your tipping point? When's everyone's tipping point? I think people are starting to get there. Now we're starting to see lots of people starting to write about this, that up to 70% of more transmission, and like, we know that that's what they're trying to say, and we know that that's just not true, because we just looked at an article that's saying that. So like this one says, it's all deception, and it's just a form of control, and that's what they're trying to do to us. So very interesting article. Go read it and check it out. Who's murdering all the COVID scientists? Doctors and scientists and medical experts involved with research in the Wuhan coronavirus are mysteriously turning up dead all around the world in what appears to be a mass calling of the people who know too much about the pandemic. One of the latest deaths was Alexander Sasha Kajansky, a Russian scientist who had been working on developing COVID-19 vaccine when he was brutally stabbed and thrown from a window of his 14th-floor apartment in St. Petersburg. Reports indicate that Kajansky died under strange circumstances and understatement considering the nature of his timely demise. So it's very interesting. We're having people that are, have the facts, and they're just turning up dead around the world. Another who died in similar circumstances was Frank Plummer, a world-renowned Canadian scientist who had been working on COVID-19 vaccine when he was apparently taken out by dark entities. Back in January, we reported Plummer's connections to the Communist Chinese spy ring that appeared to be responsible for stealing the coronavirus from Canadian labs. Winnipeg, if you guys didn't know, there was samples stolen from the Winnipeg lab. I'd have to find you the article for that. That was before my started with WHAM, but it was stolen from one of the Winnipeg labs. We had somebody stealing stuff from here and taken them to Wuhan. Professor Bai Ling from the University of Pittsburgh was murdered this year in a case, and right before the case could go public breakthrough concerning the nature of COVID, because she was going to go public. It's very interesting, these people are just turning up. There's another one here. Cheetah, HIV scientist who died from COVID in London, from lecture of HIV treatment prevention, felt unwell and went to the hospital, where she died not long thereafter. So it's crazy that, here's the facts, right? Why are these people? What's going on here? It's things to think about. Which one's this? Asymptomatic transmissions of COVID-19 didn't occur at all. Study of 10 million finds. So this is huge. This one's huge, because this one proves the whole reason why you're wearing your mask. The only reason you should be wearing a mask is if you're sick. If you're sick, that's the only reason. So you can cough into a mask. There's no transmission through asymptomatic cases. Like, if you're not sick, you have no reason to wear a mask. Because if you don't have a virus, it's impossible for you to be asymptomatic and transmit it. 10 million people were studied, and this article breaks it down. And only 300 asymptomatic cases of a study of 10 million were discovered. And none of them tested positive for COVID-19. So I hope a lot of people have already been hearing about this article and this study. It's been being talked about quite a bit. But it's very important. I think I might have just messed my thing up when I clicked there, but it started with nearly 10 million people in the study. 300 asymptomatic cases were found. Contact tracing was then carried out on the 300. No cases of COVID were detected from any of them. A total of 1,174 close contacts of these asymptomatic positive cases were traced. So that means they were contact traced, followed, and they were tested all negative. for COVID-19. Both asymptomatic patients of the contacts were placed in isolation for 2 weeks, and for the fourth night, the result remained the same. None of detected positive cases or those close contacts became symptomatic or newly confirmed. So, you know, why are we doing this, guys? Why are we doing this? The studies are here. We need to get the studies out there. We got to be reporting this. We got to be sharing this with family members, people, everyone. So this is huge. So this is just like the breakdown of it. I'm going to have the study coming up right behind it. So yeah, go to the Discord, take the information, share the information. Let's start waking people up, screaming on top of mountains, get your megaphones out, get into the grocery stores, start telling people, if you are not sick, you have no reason to be wearing a mask because there's no transmission. You ain't doing it. Stop making up fairy tales. So this right here is the study. Post-lockdown SARS-CoV-2 nucleotide AIDS screening in nearly 10 million residents in Wuhan, China. 10 million, that's like a third of the population of Canada in one city. Is that, do you guys hear this? Like, third of the population in Canada was tested and no asymptomatic cases were found of people that should have been positive. All city residents ages 6 years old were eligible, and 9,900,000, 92.9 participated. No new symptomatic cases were, and 300 asymptomatic cases. Detection rate of 0.0 or 0.30 of the 95% were identified. There were no positive cases among the 1,174 close contacts of the asymptomatic cases. 107 of the 34 previously reported COVID patients tested positive again. So only 107 of these patients who were positive got retested positive again. So that's a 0.31% point. That's not a full percentage. It's a third of a single percent. The prevailing infection was therefore very low for 5 to 8 weeks after the end of the lockdown. So super interesting study here, basically debunking this whole reason of why we're told to put the mask on to save grandma or save whoever. You know, if you're not sick, you are not going to pass it on. It's not going to happen. It's proven. Science doesn't lie. Media does. So moving on, I think we're going to get into something, changing topics here. We're going to change the topics here. We're going to get out of the Cove stuff because it gets a little overwhelming. But I mean, now we all have those facts, and now we can take those facts and we can share those facts with our family and friends and help people get the ammunition they need, and share those facts with media sources too. Like, why aren't they questioning this new guy, Atwal or Rusin or Pallister and his green screen behind him hiding in Costa Rica right now? You know, like, we got to start pushing the media. We got to start pushing people. Get your megaphones out. Get in the grocery stores. Let's start getting noisy about this stuff. Shouldn't be wearing masks if you're not sick. And if people are wearing masks because they think that wearing a mask is going to keep other people safe when they're not sick, we need to wake them up. We need to red pill them. I know it gets annoying sometimes, but it's just like veganism. If I want to help people understand what's going on with animals, I get a megaphone, I get loud and I get noisy, or I show you slaughter footage and question you about your feelings and your ethics. So that's what we have to start doing to these people. And, you know, that's what 2021 is going to bring. It's going to bring a lot of red pill. So moving into the fun stuff here, we have an interesting week coming up here. Sure, you guys know what's coming. We have quite the thing. I hope you guys are all ready for this. If you didn't know what was coming, we got some big stuff coming. Well, I guess this is still one more thing on asymptomatic cases.
Are being exaggerated. Last night, Laura Ingram's substitute host, Raymond Arroyo, asked the famed New York cancer surgeon, Dr. William R. Grace, about these inflated COVID death statistics.
Dr. Grace, 2 Minnesota lawmakers have obtained documents that show coronavirus deaths could be inflated by 40%. 40% seems like a big overcount. How does that happen?
I think that there's a lot of pressure among a lot of hospital administrators to try and get as much credit as they can to have COVID be the cause of death. You'll have a lot of patients with a lot of other comorbid diseases, and they might have one foot in the grave and the other on a banana peel, and COVID is the last thing that knocks them into the grave. But I think there are a lot of people who try to make COVID the actual cause of death. In many cases, you see physicians objecting, and you've seen this online, where physicians objected to the cause of death as being COVID, but hospital administrators forcing them to make it COVID for whatever reason, whether it's economic or political, I don't know.
What these two studies.
So I'll move just a little bit more. I'll let you guys do some
Another of the
research on it
study's
after.
authors, Harley Thompson, noted that confining oneself to home is the worst thing you can do to stop the COVID-19 outbreak. With many countries continuing to recommend stay-at-home measures, our results show it is likely that this location will continue to be important in sustaining transmission.
I think at the beginning of the pandemic, multiple studies suggested that it was 80% of the cases were due to asymptomatic spread. And that was a whopping number. In the Centers for Disease Control, we're talking about 40%, 60%, all of which shaped policy. It was like it was hanging in the air. You know, anywhere you went, you could encounter COVID.
This new finding supports the recent massive study of nearly 10 million people in Wuhan, China, ground zero of the Wuhan virus.
So yeah, that's that one's. So it's super interesting that you know, everyone's starting to pick up on these things. So thought this was a really good one too. I got a couple more here before we get to the election stuff and some interesting breaking facts. Tanzania is going to use local herbs instead of the vaccine against COVID. It takes not less than 6 months to find a vaccine and a cure for certain disease. We have fared on our own since the pandemic spread. I'm not sure if it's wise to have a vaccine imported and distributed to the citizens without undertaking clinical testing to approve it, if it's safe for our people. Mr. Cham said of one of the Tanzania. So I thought this was pretty cool that they're going to treat with herbal remedies. So nice one to end with on that one too. So yeah, share those articles and that video with everybody, and that is going to help. So now we're going to get into the fun stuff. This is election night coup d'etat plot. I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but this is quite interesting. I'm going to share it properly so you guys get the sound. I hope you guys have heard about this. If not, you're gonna be very concerned with the information these people have. So basically what's happened is there's some inside people on the inside of these groups that are revealing the information that is being planned. So I have some points of this video. It's about a 34-minute video of one of the ones that's been selected. And we're just going to play some points out of it that is going to get you guys really thinking about what might be happening here on the 5th and 6th. And was this bombing a precursor to the events that are going to be following? Was that bombing on Christmas Day a test? Was that just to see what they could do? Is there any connection? I don't know. But you know, when you see this video here, you're going to be very disturbed with some of the stuff you see in it. I'm just going to start it off at the right spot. So basically, there we go.
Some discomfort, sacrifice, risk in order to change things. So again, chaos is a soup by which change emerges. Let's get cooking. If there should be a coup,
I got the bandwidth is just getting a little maxed out, I guess, with all the tabs that are still open. So hopefully it decides to start playing here. reopen it up. There we go. Here we
Might
go.
need to think about that. And I know, as I said earlier, how, we may find ourselves in the streets with people with different tactics than ours, but like, there may be some people that are willing to break the windows to get into the government buildings. Like, if that's what we need to do, then we shouldn't fight about that. Let's do that. Let's take over the buildings. War has got fighting. And then knowing that if some of the other folks emerge that are going to fight back, that we need to stay out of their way. We might need to figure out in advance how to build some agreements. And if there are people that are willing to put their body between the white militia and a bunch of people that are mobilized, I want to do nothing other than support them, have their back. You can also stick, right? So this is like disabling vehicles, taking action against property, especially property that's designed to hurt us, is violence. I think it's smart sometimes. I think spray painting cameras that are security cameras trying to track us could be smart. And I don't say this because I think that any one of us wants to go out and get killed. I don't want to get killed. Nobody wants to get killed.
Yeah. And so part of what we learn is like if you're escalating and I escalate, we're going to go like this.
Lisa Fithian is a National Steering Committee member of United for Peace and Justice, a coalition of over 1,000 local and national groups, and member of the national team of Extinction Rebellion.
I am someone that has had to sort of rethink my own orientation to.
So yeah, that's just a little start of what we're going to get into. I got 3 spots of this video I want to play for you guys. So as you can see there, we're going to comment on some of the stuff we saw there, that the tactics that they're using are tactics that were from the in Egypt when they did the coup in Egypt. That was the playbook they used there. That's the language that's written. And they're using the playbook from there. So take over the government buildings, media, and destruction and stuff like that. So this is a huge group, and I have the websites of exposesunrise.com and sunriseexposed.com, which are the leaks of these Zoom calls. And there's quite a few leaked Zoom calls on this. So it's when you see the tactics and the people that are involved in this, it's very it makes you think about what is going to happen in the next week. Is this why we want Trump wants, what was it, like 5 to 10 million patriots to be down there to counteract these actions that these people are looking to do? So moving on to another interesting thing, they have the maps here with, I'm just going to quickly go over, they have the maps of all the Trump donors, all the donors for the Democrats. So whichever side is playing, they talk about attacking those people's houses, and everything's mapped out on an app where they can actually use. So this is very concerning, and you're going to see is,
I'm guessing it is.
They have amassed relevant data from the DC Metropolitan Police Department, the DC Hospital Association, Fire and Emergency Medical Services.
When we zoom a little bit closer, we can take a look at, here's a version of it where in the, we're seeing live traffic here. And then where there are road closures.
Geographic information, transportation, traffic and infrastructure, spatial data systems, etc.
And then if we go even further in, we've got super high resolution. This is once again a courtesy of the District of Columbia, super high resolution, better than on Google Maps, aerial photography of Washington, D.C.
We showed this map to experts in military information operations and counterterrorism, and they were very concerned that this group had this map.
We may decide that we want to go talk to the media. So where are they?
We might have to take over a TV station, right? Maybe we're taking over the local TV station and getting airtime to put out a call for people to come join us. I know that sounds crazy. I've always wanted to do it though. So we're talking about what would it take to surround the White House and have people do stuff. We can divide it up easily with affinity groups. So I want to encourage people to think about who's got the power in your community, map the power, map the opportunities, then look at it strategically. and begin thinking about who you would want to engage based on the scenario that's happening. So for us, that might mean looking at blocking the bridges and main thoroughfares coming into the city to kind of shut the city down.
Are these people preparing for a war?
Right now, a bunch of the folks that I work with, we're ordering gas masks. I know people that are buying Kevlar vests. Again, we didn't cause the war. We didn't ask for this war. Many of us are here because we want to fight it. We want something different.
Wow, eh? So so the one guy I follow that put me onto this is that Lee Wheelbarger, inventor Lee Wheelbarger and KLM News on YouTube. And there are two great channels where he goes over some of this information as he was in the Pentagon during 9/11 and stuff. And he's a military analyst, retired. And he says these are stuff that they have no business having. And it's very concerning when you see this kind of planning. And that's all I can say really on it. And watch the next people who they have involved in this. And that's where it starts getting scary, the amount of federal workers that are involved in amongst this group. The other thing that I think is concerning is how at the very beginning they talk about Extinction Rebellion, that the link between Extinction Rebellion, as some of these activities I've seen very big links within the animal rights movements, with the tactics, or the simple fact is how they say we have to support these other groups when, because we're good intersectionalists and stuff. And when you see these other groups planning stuff like this, it's rather concerning on why these eco-radicals like the Extinction Rebellion have no education in real science and what's good for the world. And it's very concerning. So here's some of the federal workers that they have working involved this. And the ridiculous thing is that they don't hide their names, some of these people. They're just so ballsy that they think that Biden is the, oh boy, there's some more breaking news. I'll have to cover it next time. But yeah, so check this out.
In a federal agency.
Madeline Salzman has been a project manager at the U.S. Department of Energy for more than 5 years.
We're in roles of power. We set and enforce rules. We hold people accountable to social norms.
I have worked in the U.S. government. I worked in the State Department for over 5 years.
Maria J. Steffen worked at the Department of Defense Bureau of Conflict and Stabilization Operations and at NATO headquarters.
And I'm currently now on a leave of absence from my job to focus on our domestic democracy and peace building work. So I'm going to be bringing to bear perspectives both as an academic and as someone who has served as a public servant in U.S. government.
Co-author of Why Civil Resistance Works, part of Columbia University's studies in terrorism and irregular warfare. She was also doing what appears to be military information support operations for Kiev Post, a publication everyone thinks is a CIA newspaper, during the US-backed uprising in Ukraine. She is also a former senior fellow for the Atlantic Council as an expert on Ukraine and the logic of civil resistance.
Rallies, marches, methods of non-cooperation.
If anyone here is an expert on irregular warfare and mobilizing resistance movements, Steffen is.
Really, it's about how you all as federal workers can be the penultimate public servants at a time when our country needs you the most. President Eerie S.
Interesting. So yeah, as you can see, that's super concerning how they have somebody who's been studying these tactics working for them. Huh.
Very judiciously, only.
It's really interesting. I lost the audio for some reason. So the ending I wanted to share with you too, but it doesn't seem like the audio is going to work for some reason.
You can't do this. They said, okay, so sorry. Pulled up the banners.
But basically, I'll just tell you what the ending talked about. Basically, this guy here says, if you give me 1,000 people, and I can shut down a city. 1,000 people between the bridges and the roads, and he's bragging about it in this section here, where he's basically bragging that with 1,000 people he can take over. So
foundational.
yeah, very concerning. So we're gonna have those links all for you guys, and it's crazy when you see that stuff. So if you are in the States and you're able to go out and, you know, exercise your freedoms of gathering and all that, and assembly and speech, because you guys have that more than us, get out there, because it looks like there's going to be some chaos going down. These people look pretty serious, and it's something to think about if that's what they're going for. Here is the website, Exposed Sunrise, for immediate release. Leaked Zoom calls reveals, and here's the worst part. Here's the worst part. I know Andy's going to feel the same way, how they use this word anarchists, as we've been learning what anarchy truly means, as this is not anarchy. I don't think it is anarchy, but especially when you want to take over like this, and, you know, falsify elections and do everything that they've done. I mean, but it doesn't matter which side you're on. You should strive for some sort of equal terms, right? Like, if we say that person should be the leader, we should let him be the leader. If we say no, then no. Doesn't matter which side you're on. But as we've been learning what true anarchy really means, it's been really brainwashed by these far leftists into thinking that, you know, their form of anarchy is freedom, but it's not. It's just another form of fascism. So yeah, here's a lot of the information that's going to be on the site, where they have all the Zoom calls. There's quite a few. This site's a little smaller than the next one I'm going to show you, but it basically still gives you it's great information on this stuff. This is the big site, sunrightexposed.com. As you can see here, they have videos coming, like they have videos. So they have all these videos that have been leaked, and there's more being leaked. You know, check this site every day, every 2 days. It says 48 hours. There's new releases coming onto this site. So and then here's all their documents for everything they're doing. So if you wanted to read what some of these people's tactics are, I mean, this is what they are. Paul Engler is one of the people that we were always encouraged to read about when I was getting into vegan activism. This is an Uprising and different books. Yeah. So you can just see there's just so much information here of what these people are planning to do. You can tell that it's a very large. I feel like it's a very large group. It doesn't really, it affects me in certain ways because I do have family that lives in Georgia, and as we know, there's a lot of stuff going on in Georgia, which we're going to get into here coming up, with some telling evidence of election fraud that's been proven through Wi-Fi cards, going through thermostat systems, and then going to China. So it's, you know, people are going to get caught left, right, and center. But this is telling evidence of something that could be being planned, and also you'll see I have some things where this could be linking into the Nashville bombing too, which I think there might be more to that story than they're really letting on. So we're going to get into that right now. I have a great couple. I got here 2 clips here from the Steele report about curious targets with a NSA analyst. So 27. Oh, no.
Where they exactly were. But you could figure out who that
was. Hey, Andy, is there audio on your side?
AT&T, you know? and simply by
did
looking
everything
at
I was supposed
cluster
to.
mapping.
Yeah, I have audio. Can you hear me?
AT&T published
it might be your headphones or something.
Microwave lines inside the 48 states of the United States. You could overlay that and see that it almost fits pretty close to all the points and all the intersecting points on the microwave lines of AT&T.
Oh, yes.
All right, so
Okay,
Bill,
so there's
on the
audio.
screen
It's
right
just
now, we
not.
put up so the audience can, keep up with this, because this is
It's
a
just
lot
not
of technical jargon, and I know we
showing.
have an
So
extremely sophisticated
on
and
my end, I'm
technical
not getting
audience.
any audio.
I know my audience particularly is smart, a lot smarter than the average audience out there, and they love stuff like this. And your fans are here tonight. We've got a big audience. But going back to the previous slide where we just had the tap points, I want to look at that really quickly. Nashville right there has got the red square. That's where one of the big tap points is for. Is it just AT&T or is it a lot of other telecom companies there, Bill?
Well, the AT&T is the Fairview program. They named the programs according to the the provider, the service provider that they're working with. For example, with Verizon, it's called Stormbrew. But in this case, AT&T has about close to 80-some tapping points inside the United States. And the one there, keep in mind this slide, if you look at it, it's got a date up at the top. In the top right side, it says 2029-11-30. That's the 30th of November of 2029. That's the first date that this slide would be reviewed for declassification. And that, according to the regulations, you can go on the web and Google this, and it'll tell you every 25 years they're supposed to do a classification review. Well, that's 25 years from the creation of this slide. So that says this slide was the status of their program Fairview as of 30 November 2004. Now we pumped tens of billions of dollars into that, and this has really only been developed since early 2002. They started doing the metadata part of it because of they could easily handle that.
So yeah, as you can see there's some really interesting links to what's going on, or the potential of what could be going on with what's going with the bombing in Nashville. It's very interesting to know now that these buildings, these key buildings here, the red buildings, the squares here, like where Nashville is, this is the red square here with this yellow triangle, that these buildings here, the key infrastructure points where you could literally shut down the communication structure of the federal government within the country. So when we look back on the video there where they talk about shutting down, how to do a coup, right? You need to know how to shut down communication in order to take over the government. So it's very interesting to see how that building was a target. So moving on to some curious targets. I'll play it a little sooner so you can see this. What they're going to be talking about is this is the motorhome here. This is the cop block in the other end of the street. This is the motorhome. And what you're going to see is it's more over here where the boom goes, which just doesn't make sense. And it's just mind-boggling. So we're going to play this till 39 minutes. And this is all about curious targets, this section.
In fact, we're running it right now. This is a police cam.
And if you are disturbed by
a different camera view, not a police cam, that shows right before the blast zone. You can see the RV up on the far left. And from this angle, all you see the explosion. It's really hard to see anything else. There was a quick sort of like a lightning flash there. But we have another angle that shows where there seemed to be some sort of power source that came up from the ground prior to the explosion. And I want to run that now because I want to get your take on it. Let's take a look at this video right here, which is somewhat of a distant camera, and I'll walk everybody through it as soon as we got it playing here. Oh, all right. We've got voice on this, so I can't talk over it. Well, let's go ahead and roll that, and then we'll come back and talk about it. But pay attention to the third light pole. Just the third light pole in the distance, you'll see a flash come up, and it's up on the left. You'll see it here in a second.
Now watch by the third light post. Something streams up in the air. And then this. Now the perspective is off a little bit because obviously you're shooting over the top of the AT&T tower, and I want to make something perfectly clear that the AT&T tower, the Batman building, is not connected to. Now watch by the third light post. Something streams up in the air, and then this.
So, Bill, you've talked about directed energy weapons. I've got some information today from a very trusted source in the White House, which actually called this a air-delivered thermal barrack EMP, electromagnetic pulse. What say you on this?
Well, you know, I've been experiencing things that would suggest that they have some rather novel ways of doing directed energy and building directed energy weapons that can penetrate much more than one would expect they would be possible to do. So I'm not an explosive expert, so I'm not really that confident in telling, but there's certainly something very suspicious there that should be investigated by people who have a lot more knowledge in this kind of area than I do. Yeah.
All right, so then let's talk about the actual target, because from what I understand from the source I have in the White House, who I have to say has never steered me wrong and has been, should we say, responsible for some information the president retweets, so I trust this source. They're talking about this thermal barrack EMP, electromagnetic pulse, being delivered via the air, which would explain that stream we see going up by that light pole prior to the blast. And they said that the RV was really there to sort of direct the target where they should paint the target for the blast. If that in fact is true, hitting that area, there's a building there on 333 Commerce Street, which is the AT&T building. Tell us about what's inside that building and why that would be significant.
Well, that is, I had identified that one about 5 years ago as one of the major tapping points for the AT&T Fairview program that was depicted on the slide that you showed of that program, showing that red dot or red square in Nashville doing voice over IP at the time. That was as of 2004. But since then, it's probably expanded. But any one of these points, once you're into one of the points, you can then transfer through this network to any other switch in the network and do anything you want across that network. So it's not just it's not just a collection point. That gives you access to this entire setup, and including forwarding all the data back to NSA for storage in Utah or on Fort Meade or wherever they want to store it. They've got any number of storage facilities. So, that to me said that this was kind of a very curious primary target to go for. Why would they do that? Why would that be a point or a target to be attacked? Well, it's because it's forwarding data and giving an access to a system that's spying on everybody and gives them the capability to manipulate anything on the network. And they have another program, which I think I gave you a slide on. Treasure Map is that program that tells you what they have is the ability then to look at.
Yeah, so as you can see, that's super interesting. How you see the flash after. We see that straight line flash, and then literally like 1, 2, possibly even 3, and then there's the explosion. It's very interesting. That video makes me really wonder what's really going on, and I was really thinking it was just a normal incident until you start going down these rabbit holes. I know this is going to start getting a little bit long here soon. I hope I don't go too long here, but I have one more small spot here that's very important. And I hope if you guys didn't know that these things are real, they're real.
Talk about it. I find it interesting.
Lockheed Martin produces systems that do everything from detect the threats to identify the threats, determine whether it's a threat to the aircraft, and then employs the appropriate weapon, in this case, a laser weapon system.
What we're hearing from our customers is that they need a layered, multi-domain defensive approach that can be integrated across platforms to neutralize these threats across all those domains. Imagine an aircraft equipped with a laser system with the capability to be able to neutralize a threat at the speed of a lightning strike, the precision of a surgical scalpel, with the magazine to deal with a swarm, and with the scalable effect to be able to address that threat, providing an effect all the way the one end from simply deterring it for a short period of time, all the way up to completely neutralizing and defeating that threat.
We were able to integrate our laser weapon system, Athena, into the classified C2 network and receive cues from the radar on the range in order to execute the full kill chain.
The Helios laser weapon system builds on 40 years of combat system engineering and radar excellence. That is a fundamental change for laser weapon systems.
So yeah, you get the gist of it, right? That's where we're at right now with technology. It's pretty crazy. If you didn't think this stuff was real, it's looking like it's here in the now. So yeah, that's where we're at. I'll share that link with you guys. So moving on to, we're getting down. We've got 10 more tabs, so we're making headway here on everything I wanted to share with everybody. So as you can see there, that was a lot of information there, a lot to think about. Some mind-opening stuff there. So check the Discord out. That's where that link is going to be, and it's getting interesting out there. Whether these events had anything to do with what could happen in the next week, we'll have to see. If they were to shut down, or someone were to shut down the communication systems during this, during the where they count the votes and stuff for the Electoral College, and everybody's protesting in the streets, that would create complete chaos in my eyes. Just going on to that video, this is kind of what I was trying to say, where they show here and there that there's no where it happened to where it is. And as you slow down the footage, you see that you know what I'm saying? When it starts to happen, that's where it is. So that's where the RV is. And I know the camera does move too, but it looks like this is the best video I've seen where they really keep everything in line during the boom. So it's very interesting. Links below. Another thing happened yesterday. Thousands of Colorado residents have no heat after intentional attack on gas service. So, I have a few people that live in Colorado, so that's how I got put onto this article. It was vandalism at a gas plant. At one of the targeted sites, police found the words "Earth First" scrawled. An investigator were looking at the whether self-described radical environmental group Earth First was involved. So it was 2 degrees Fahrenheit, so was like probably close to minus 15, 20 Celsius for us Canadians. So pretty scary to see people doing shit like this to people in winter time too. Like, how low can it go for you to and gas is some of the cleanest burning fuel out there, and that's my problem with these eco radicalists, because they're uneducated. Gas of everything is the one thing that's one of the cleanest burning things, and one of the cleaner things to extract from Earth. Americans are still unaware Biden is the road to socialism, communism. Socialism is a philosophy of failure, the creed of ignorance, and the gospel of envy. It is inherent virtue is the equal sharing of misery, with Winston Churchill. Actually watching an interesting series on Netflix, actually, now that Winston Churchill gets brought up. In England, what we're going through now is very telling to some of the trials and tribulations Winston Churchill went through, and the people who got in power after him, which was a socialist party. It's very interesting. The goal of socialism and communism. On December 6th and 7th, polled Americans Which is better, a free market system or socialism? 75% of the respondees said a free market system, where only 11% answered socialism. However, they were asked whether they had favorable or unfavorable impressions of Joe Biden. Said they had at least a favorable person, while 47% said unfavorable. So it's very interesting that people still don't understand, we can see that Americans still have a blind spot when it comes to the connection between Joe Biden and socialism policies. People don't understand that Joe Biden is the symptom of socialism and communism. Reality check, socialism has never worked. Oh boy. So, interesting article. Just thought I'd share it with you. I like the quotes that they had pulled up out of it. It's pretty good. And oh yeah, Joe Biden is heavily compromised by the CCP, which we know. I think it's pretty obvious at this point. Soviet-style media propaganda in America. One of the pillars of the Soviet Union was to control the press, and coverage was organized to confirm mendacious ideology. Soviet practices would have once been unthinkable in the United States media, but in August 2016, that's basically when this started to happen. So, as you can see, you can check it out. But yeah, it basically where media started to turn on Trump, and yeah, the plague of the nation's worst racist and national tendencies. But yeah, I just liked how at the beginning here they said that one of the pillars of the Soviet Union was the control of the press, which we know that's what it was in Nazi Germany as well, as the controlling of press, and how like Hitler had given radios out to everybody just so they could hear the weekly radio show. You can sign up to Epoch Times. I'm signed up, but I didn't have a chance to put it in here. But the power of the vice president to count or reject electoral votes disputed. So yeah, this is an interesting article. I did read it. The Epoch Times does a wonderful job of reporting like on all issues right now. I've always loved their reporting on China and the Falun Gong and everything that the Epoch Times does. So go give them a follow, subscribe. It's free. You just got to give them your email. Just going to quickly go over some of this election fraud thing. We're in at this very moment the polling location in the counties. Not only do we have access to the devices and the polling pad in the system, but we are in. So this guy today, I watched this conference here, and it was amazing. So this article will be in there, and this will be the quick little video I'm just going to share, which I had no clue about this stuff, but I thought it was super interesting because I didn't know you could go this far into folding paper. Let's just leave it at that. So check this out. Oh, it moved it, didn't
it? You might need to re-add with the sound. Doesn't seem like it's. I don't know why it doesn't seem like it's clear. Yeah, I don't think my link's working here. Sorry guys if my link didn't work there. Let me just reopen this.
Isn't it supposed to be at 30? Okay, sorry about that. I don't know if the audio is working on this video or not for you guys. But basically, because it's getting a little bit long here, the video, it's basically going over the paper folding of the video. I think I know what I did wrong. Sorry about that. I think I had messed up on the, I forgot to press the audio button on the video on the last one. Yeah, basically what that video was talking about was the folding of the papers. It's like a tree. It always leaves lines on the papers. So when it's first printed, it's folded, and then it's unfolded. So every time it's folded and unfolded, it leaves identifying marks. And what this guy's done is made it to the point where you can see each one of these marks. So a lot of the ballots that were just thrown in didn't get folded the first time from the machine, so they didn't get folded and unfolded. They just got handed in to the machine, handed in and counted. So that's what this guy was going over. It was very interesting how he proved it there. But I closed the window, and we're getting pretty late here, so I have my final fun stories for the night here to finish up. And yeah, we'll get into the fun story. So yeah, go give that KLM News a follow. They do a good job on reporting on how it works, and it's pretty cool. And I think, you know, the truth will come out in the end. I mean, it doesn't matter which side you're on. I mean, a fair vote is a fair vote. So yeah, check it out. Japanese authorities have begun slaughtering more than 1 million chickens at an egg farm in eastern Japan after bird flu outbreak was discovered. It's the 32nd national outbreak of avian influenza, and the government's calling almost 5 million chickens. So workers at a farm found about 220 chickens were dead on Wednesday and reported this to the local government officials. It's the 32nd outbreak of avian influenza this season, with the government calling more than 4.6 million chickens in total. The last outbreak hit 13 prefectures. So yeah, I just thought it was a pretty concerning thing to hear that, you know, we have avian flus popping off, and this has always been a concern of vegan activists like myself, where intensive factory farms were, especially of this size, I mean, you could hear the amount of chickens were called in this prefecture, right? That's a lot of animals to just kill in these horrible conditions that a lot of these factory farms live in. So, you know, this is always something that people should be concerned about in intensive factory farms. That's where these diseases can mutate and grow into something bigger, and this could always lead into, you know, some sort of a real pandemic, right? Instead of something that's designed. COVID-19 pandemic is driving 30% of the seniors to eat more plant-based foods. I thought this was a fun article. 3 out of 10 seniors in North America are eating plant-based foods due to COVID-19 pandemic. A report compiled by retirement residence companies American Senior Lifestyles found between September and October 2020, a group of 1,400 baby boomers and seniors in Canada and US were polled, and half of American seniors and lifestyles about their dietary behaviors during the pandemic. And in addition to trying more plant-based foods, 59% of participants said they were eating healthier and increasing their physical activity. So even though they're, locked down in their house, a lot of people are still finding a way to become physical activity and trying to eat healthy, and trying to not eat those processed foods that are full of glyphosates and different chemicals. Trying to eat whole foods like beans, legumes, rices, tofus, tempehs, grains. Grains are always good too. We need our grains. This is a good one. Adidas to launch vegan mushroom leather shoes. So this week, footwear and apparel brands Adidas announced that it will be developing vegan leather shoes made from mycelium, the fast-growing root system of mushrooms. While the brand did not announce when styles will be made, the new material will be on the market. It partnered with biotechnology startup Bolt Threads in October to gain access to mycelium-based leather Milo. I thought that was kind of cool. Just another waste that, we don't need to continue using cow hides anymore, and create something a little more sustainable. As cow hides and the whole process, which I know there's leftovers, but I mean, if people look at how these animals are treated in factory farm situations, you would probably want to choose a mycelium-based leather, as it's for one, you're using carbon capture. You're able to take carbon out of the air and put it back into the ground, which is always good. That has nothing to do with global warming or anything. You're just helping feed the ground, feed the soil. We need carbon. I mean, human beings are like 18% carbon or something like that. Like, we need carbon. Carbon is important. And mycelium is just a good way to create fabrics. And I think it's a really cool thing that people are starting to get into. And it just gives people more options to not wear the skin of another animal. I thought this was a fun one. I always seem to find one of these treasure articles. British birdwatcher uncovers 1 million treasure trove of ancient Celtic coins. That evening, I was doing a bit of bird watching. The same lucky man who is in his 50s, after watching a dogfight between a bizarre pair of magpies, I stared down and spotted something lying in a bit of deep pluggled, I've never heard that word, pluggled soil, which ran around the edges of the field. He knew the discovery was a great historical value. Immediately, he chose to remain anonymous. He saw a glint of gold and realized it was the beautiful Celtic gold starter, which made him sit down in sure shock, said the man. Then he spotted a second coin 2 feet away and rushed home to get his metal detector. Glad he had one. A vision that will remain with me for the rest of my life. That's so cool. So yeah, he found $845 million or $1,000 in pounds. Sorry, pounds. 845,000 pound dollars. I don't know how you say that. The 1,300 gold coins found in the discovery may break a previous record of Celtic coins found in one hoard. So yeah, this guy's pretty lucky. What a good thing to find around Christmas. I'm not sure exactly the time that he found it, but published 3 days ago. So what a find. I thought this is pretty cool. Do you know what this is? These are Eerie living stones in Romania. Are fantastical and totally real. A small town in Romania called Coldest is home to the unusual geological manifestation of bulging bulbous boulders called trovents. These stones have long intrigued locals with their organic-looking shape and strange cement oozing, inspiring myths about stone's ability to grow and move like living beings rather than inanimate objects. Yeah, so check this out. Isn't that cool? Likely shaped by earthquakes around 6 million years ago, trovents are types of constructs, sedimentary sand grains, or rocks bounded together by a limestone calcium carbonate cement. Some are made from sandstone, others from gravel. So cool, eh? I thought these were pretty neat. I wanted to share them with you guys. Yeah, so check that article out and pass it along and share it with your friends. So moving on to our final article of the night. I thought this one was pretty cool. Giant skeletons of enormous size discovered in Mexico. New York Times article from 1902. Our history is being erased right before our eyes. Researcher Graham Hancock coined the phrase, "We're like a species with amnesia," and it's true, despite the facts that it seems the story of human history is well uncovered. Every single year there's a new discovery that challenges what we once held new. In some cases, discoveries which are concealed from the public for various reasons are great examples of what would be the black budget world. So yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. So it's an article from 1902 that somebody uncovered and started sharing. So it's pretty cool to think that, well, not to think that we, have proof of skeletons of giant people, right? I mean, 12 feet tall, and parts of the upper leg bone, hip and bone were approximately stood 12 feet tall. Isn't that crazy? You can imagine that 12 feet tall. It's like two times the size of me. I'm 5'11", so I can just imagine looking up at somebody like that, like, hey, how's it going up there? Doors and everything would have to be reinvented, right? Sometimes maybe in older structures, you wonder, like, but yeah, it's hard to say we never know what our true history is from that long ago, but I mean, we have the skeletal remains to prove something. So yeah, it's an interesting read. You can see the footage. No footage available. But yeah, it's a good check out. Check it out and share the article. And it's always fun to read into this stuff. I don't know if anyone's ever done into research on giant skeletons and stuff, but I think it's pretty cool. So looking into the mirror image there. And yeah, so I don't know. I hope everybody really liked the information tonight. Kind of a little bit of a range of stuff. I always like to start off with some weather and current events and lead into some of the stuff that I'm interested in. Really interested in what's going to be happening. Those coup videos and those alliance groups and all that stuff. That was really shocking to find out about and disturbing at the same time, as people are concerned. The way people are talking about those maps and how they shouldn't have them, and just the sheer brazenness to say you're going to go spray paint security or police in the eyes or in the shields or spray paint cameras. That's pretty. I think that's pretty crazy tactics, and I don't think that's going in line with your utopian world that these people say they want to live in. You can really see their fascism just in their actions, right? I hope that was a good amount of information for you. As always, check out the Discord, comment below. If you ever have something you want me to look into a little further, if you have questions, don't be afraid to reach out on RightSide Vegan on Twitter or Instagram. I might be getting rid of Instagram though, we'll see. But you can always go check me out on Parler. And yeah, and go into the Discord. And remember, tomorrow we have 2 shows. We got Beth at 3, and then we have Todd with Prairie Truth at 8 p.m. Remember to hit that donate button on the website if you can help out. Buy a cup of coffee for something worth a cup of coffee. Small amounts all help. If everybody does it, it all adds up. And it can always help out in the end with the production of these shows and trying to improve the quality and quantity of our productions. So this is RightSide Vegan News with episode number 5. And hope you guys had a wonderful time. And we're going to be coming in with a new year here. and we'll see what happens in the next week. So on Wednesday, we'll see you again, and I'm sure I'll have some new stories for you. And yeah, get ready. Have a good New Year, everybody. Thanks.